Time now for our international press review in the papers here on France 24. Catherine Spencer's here with a roundup of, well, what's happening across all the front pages across the world. Started with the G8 conference getting underway in Japan. What's the French perspective?
Okay, well, starting off with French left-wing daily Libération. It says G8, the headline, a private, efficient club, but it's actually very sarcastic. It says that the G8's in crisis at a time when the world's in crisis, and it questions the role of G8. It says that as the world's richest countries attempt to sit down and solve the four major issues: climate change, food, energy, and economic problems, how much can this elite club really do? Because it is an elite club. It says it also has an interesting comparison. I don't know if people understand, but it compares diplomatically G8 to the Minitel, which is a kind of system that France developed which preceded the web. So basically it says it's massively outdated. It doesn't deliver on its promises. It doesn't do what it was set up to do. You know, it's outdated. It's time to move on and create something new.
I can remember Minitel. It took forever to look up the simplest phone number, and it took ages to start it up. And of course, in the days of the day now of internet technology, it just seems ridiculously outdated. And that's what they're saying.
And that's what it's saying diplomatically. G8's exactly. The Independent goes on to say, staying with the theme, that the exclusion of India and China has provided additional fuel for critics of G8. It says that with China now having a larger economy than Britain, France and Italy put together, and being the largest emitter of greenhouse gases, it's not realistic to continue excluding it. It also talks about the scale of the security operation. I think last time Japan hosted it in 2000, it cost something like $750 million. This time around, there's 21,000 police drafted in to protect people. There's something like 60 chefs who have been drafted in. You know, it's this huge project, huge expense. Is it really worth it? What can they really achieve? Washington's already said that it's not going to sign anything long-term on climate change without China and India on board, because there's simply no point. So.
And as you point out, both China and India are not members of G8 and not likely to become members of G8 either. So it kind of raises a big question mark as the whole sort of effectiveness of that structure.
Yeah.
What's next?
Okay, now moving on to The Guardian. Staying with the kind of food theme, as Gordon Brown goes to G8 and he's planning on making rising food prices a priority. Back home, he's saying, look, Britain is wasting far too much food. The Cabinet Office has published statistics which say that every year 4 million tonnes of food are wasted, which works out at roughly £420 per household. So it's basically like people chucking away their money. And it looks as if they're going to target initiatives in supermarkets which kind of encourage people to bulk buy, for example, 2-for-1 deals. You wonder whether or not that's going to hit the sort of the poorest consumers the hardest, but he basically says it's not acceptable. We've got to tackle this at grassroots level, and he wants to be shown to be leading by example back home when he goes to G8.
It's a funny thing, isn't it? Because when you think, well, you know, if you and I make economies, is it necessarily going to help a poor farmer in a developing country? I'm not entirely convinced by that, but carry on. Who am I to differ with Gordon Brown? Very wise man. Carry on.
Absolutely. Staying with both food and The Guardian, there was another article that caught my eye about snails. Now, apparently, it's obviously a French national delicacy, although 99% come from elsewhere.
No.
But apparently, they come from Eastern Europe, but less and less people are willing to go out and pick snails for a living. So the shortage has pushed up prices, and obviously, because of fertiliser and the chemicals in the ground in France, it means that there's not suitable fertile ground for snails over here. So basically, there's a massive shortage, prices are going up, and it's cast a massive shadow.
And this is all because people in places where they've been picking the snails now sort of like can get a better living, they do better things, they don't need to pick snails anymore.
No, so it's, you know, for gastronomy.
Yeah. Well, I'll dispatch you now to get the snails' perspective. Go and find some snails to speak to. Catherine, thank you very much. That was our international press review. You're watching France 24. Stay with us.